Tommy Mills fought through the blizzard, ice crystals cutting his 8-year-old face like needles. The barn animals needed checking, and Ma couldn't leave baby Emma alone in the cabin. Each step through knee-deep snow felt like drowning in frozen quicksand. The wind howled across the Montana Territory homestead, rattling the weathered barn doors. Tommy's breath formed white clouds as he struggled with the latch, numb fingers barely working. Inside, the horses whinnied nervously, sensing the storm's fury. That's when he saw the blood. Dark red drops led from the barn's back wall to a crumpled figure half buried in snow. A man lay unconscious, expensive leather boots jutting from beneath a fine wool coat. His left hand clutched a worn satchel, his right pressed against a wound in his side. Ma, Sarah Mills, appeared in the doorway, her weathered face etched with concern. At 32, she looked older, worn down by 2 years of widowhood and barely surviving each harsh winter. "What is it, son?" "There's a man by the barn. He's hurt bad." Emma peered around her mother's skirts, 12 years old, but wise beyond her years. The family exchanged glances. Strangers meant trouble, but leaving someone to die in this storm wasn't an option. Sarah grabbed her husband's old coat. "Help me get him inside." They dragged the unconscious stranger through the snow, his dead weight nearly impossible to manage, inside the cabin's warmth. Sarah examined his wounds, a bullet graze, nothing fatal, but he'd lost blood and suffered exposure. The man's lips moved, mumbling through fever. "The children, Denver, have to make it right." Sarah studied his face, noting the soft hands of someone who'd never worked hard labor. His clothes cost more than her family saw in a year. "We do what's right," she told her children. "Even when it's hard, that's what your pa would have wanted." Outside, the blizzard raged for 3 more days. Sarah tended the stranger by lamplight while wind rattled the cabin's single window. His fever had broken on the 2nd day, but delirium still gripped him during the dark hours. Emma and Tommy whispered by the fire, stealing glances at their unexpected guest. "Mary, forgive me," the man muttered, turning restlessly on their only spare bedding. "The children in Denver. I should have been there." Sarah dampened a cloth in their precious water supply. The stranger's face looked familiar, though she couldn't place it. His hands were smooth, except for calluses on his right thumb and forefinger. A businessman who handled documents, not tools. "Ma, who is he?" Emma asked quietly. "Don't know yet." "Sweetheart, why's he talking about children?" Sarah had wondered the same thing. In his fevered rambling, the man spoke of a dead wife named Mary, children he'd abandoned, and business deals that haunted his conscience. His expensive pocket watch was engraved, "To James McKinnon, with love, M." McKinnon. The name triggered something in Sarah's memory, but the connection remained elusive. "Water," the stranger croaked, his first coherent word in days. Sarah helped him drink, studying his face as consciousness slowly returned, dark hair graying at the temples, lines around green eyes that suggested a man in his 40s. When he focused on her, she saw intelligence and deep weariness. Where am I?" "Mills Homestead. You were dying in our barn." He struggled to sit up, wincing at the movement. "How long?" 3 days. Storms finally breaking. McKinnon looked around the sparse cabin, rough-hewn furniture, patched quilts, the smell of poverty. His gaze stopped on the children, then returned to Sarah with something like shame. "I owe you my life." "You don't owe us nothing, mister. We help because it's right." He noticed the family photograph on the mantel, Sarah, the children, and a man in mining clothes. Your husband? Was. Sarah's voice closed the subject. McKinnon's hand found his satchel, relief crossing his features. Whatever was inside mattered more than his own life. Morning sunlight streamed through the cabin window, revealing the storm's aftermath. Snow drifted against the walls, but the wind had finally died. McKinnon sat up carefully, testing his strength. I need to repay your kindness, he said, opening his satchel to reveal gold coins and banknotes. Take what you need. Sarah stepped back as if he'd offered poison. Common decency ain't for sale. Mr. McKinnon, we help because it's right. His full name hung in the air like smoke. McKinnon studied her face, searching for recognition, but Sarah's expression remained neutral. She knew that name, though had heard it whispered in mining camps with a mixture of respect and bitterness. You know who I am. I know you're a man who was dying, and now you're not. Tommy approached shyly. Mister, will you tell us about Denver? Ma says it's a real city with electric lights. McKinnon's face softened. It is, son. Streets full of carriages. Buildings tall as mountains. But it's not home. Where's home? Emma asked. The question seemed to pain him. I thought it was my ranch, but home should be where people miss you when you're gone. Sarah busied herself with breakfast, but she listened carefully. This man owned more than her family would see in 10 lifetimes. Yet he spoke of loneliness with genuine anguish. After the children went outside to play, McKinnon approached the mantel photograph. Your husband. What happened? Sarah's hands stilled on the dishes. Mining accident. Cave-in at the Copper Creek mine. McKinnon went very still. When? 2 years ago, this spring. His face drained of color. Sarah watched his reaction with growing certainty. She'd found the right newspaper clipping hidden in her Bible. The Copper Creek mine belonged to McKinnon Enterprises. Ma'am, I don't. Sarah's voice was quiet but firm. Whatever you're fixing to say, don't. McKinnon stared at the photograph, seeing the dead miner's face clearly for the first time. I should go. Storm damaged the bridge. You'll be here a few more days, whether we like it or not. She didn't tell him she'd already decided to help him heal, even knowing what his greed had cost her family. Some decisions went deeper than justice. Spring's early warmth loosened winter's grip as McKinnon helped repair storm damage despite Sarah's protests. His soft businessman's hands blistered on the hammer, but he worked steadily alongside Tommy, teaching the boy proper technique. Like this, son, let the hammer's weight do the work. Emma brought them water, studying McKinnon with curious eyes. You don't seem like other rich folks. How's that? You listen when we talk, and you don't act like we're stupid. McKinnon paused his hammering. My own children probably think I'm the stupid one. Haven't seen them in 2 years. Why not? Tommy asked. Because I chose business over family. Seemed important at the time. Sarah watched from the porch, mending clothes with practiced efficiency. The easy way McKinnon related to her children surprised her. In his stories, she glimpsed the lonely boy he'd been, sent away to boarding school, raised by nannies while his father built an empire. Mrs. Mills, a voice called from the road. Pete Miller approached on horseback, his weathered face suspicious. Sarah's nearest neighbor and her late husband's former partner. Miller had been sniffing around since her husband's death, offering to help with increasingly insistent proposals. Pete, what brings you by? Miller's eyes fixed on McKinnon. Heard you had a visitor. Folks in town are asking questions. About what? Strangers bring trouble. Sarah, especially ones with money. McKinnon straightened. meeting Miller's stare. I'm just a man, recovering from injuries. Nothing more. Funny, you look familiar. Sarah felt tension coiling like a spring. Mr. McKinnon will be moving on soon as the bridge is repaired. See that he does. Miller tipped his hat, but his eyes held warning. Some folks don't take kindly to outsiders. After Miller rode away, McKinnon set down his hammer. I should leave now. I'm bringing you trouble. Maybe, Sarah admitted. But running away won't solve nothing. That evening, as McKinnon helped Emma with her numbers while Tommy practiced reading, Sarah felt something dangerous blooming in her chest. This man had destroyed her first life. But somehow he was helping build a second one. The wolf pack appeared at dusk, gray shadows flowing between the trees like deadly smoke. Sarah counted 6 adults stalking their small flock of sheep, hunger making them bold as winter's game grew scarce. Get inside, McKinnon ordered, pushing the children toward the cabin. Those are my sheep, Sarah protested, grabbing her husband's old rifle. And those are my... McKinnon stopped himself. Our children. They need protecting more than sheep. The lead wolf, a massive male with yellow eyes, padded closer. McKinnon grabbed an axe handle, placing himself between the pack and the cabin door. His wounded side still ached, but adrenaline steadied his hands. Sarah, if I fall, get the children to the root cellar. You're not dying on my land twice. They stood together as twilight deepened, prey animals facing predators with nothing but determination. The wolves circled, testing for weakness. Their breath steaming in the cold air, the attack came without warning. 2 wolves flanked left while the alpha charged straight ahead. McKinnon swung the axe handle, connecting with solid muscle and bone. Sarah's rifle cracked, dropping one attacker. Tommy, bring the lantern, McKinnon shouted. Fire drove the pack back, but the alpha regrouped for another assault. This time, McKinnon met its charge head-on, wrestling the massive wolf while Sarah reloaded. Her second shot scattered the remaining pack into the forest. McKinnon lay breathing hard, torn shirt revealing old scars across his ribs. Military service? Sarah asked. Border wars. Long time ago. Some things you don't forget. That night, Emma helped Sarah clean McKinnon's reopened wound while Tommy stood guard with the rifle. The crisis had transformed their careful boundaries into something deeper. You risked your life for sheep, Emma observed. For family, McKinnon corrected quietly. Sarah's hands stilled on the bandage. In that moment, seeing his blood mixed with wolf's blood on her kitchen table, she realized the truth. Despite everything he'd done, despite the mine accident and her husband's death, she was falling in love with James McKinnon. The recognition terrified her more than any wolf pack. Pete Miller returned with the territorial marshal and 2 armed deputies, their badges glinting in the afternoon sun. Sarah's heart hammered as she watched them approach, knowing this confrontation had been inevitable. Mrs. Mills, Marshal Henderson tipped his hat. We need to speak with your house guest. McKinnon emerged from the barn, hay dust on his shirt, looking more like a ranch hand than a cattle baron. Gentlemen, something I can help you with? James McKinnon, you're wanted for questioning regarding fraudulent land deals and unsafe mining practices. Sarah felt the world tilting. She'd known about the mine accident, but fraud charges suggested deeper corruption. The children pressed against her skirts, sensing danger. Marshal? Miller interjected. This woman's been harboring a criminal. Her property should be seized as evidence. That's not how the law works. Pete, Henderson replied, but his expression suggested the possibility. Sarah's mind raced. If McKinnon was arrested here, Miller would use the scandal to claim her land through legal maneuvering. She'd lose everything her husband had worked for. "There's something you should know," she said quietly. McKinnon's eyes widened, understanding her intention. "Sarah, don't." But she was already moving to the cabin, returning with her husband's papers and a yellowed newspaper clipping. "My husband died in Mr. McKinnon's mine. Cave-in caused by cost-cutting." The marshal read the accident report while McKinnon stood frozen. Emma and Tommy stared at their mother with growing comprehension and betrayal. "You knew?" Emma's voice cracked. "You knew who he was? And you helped him anyway?" Tommy added. McKinnon found his voice. "I can't undo what happened, but I swear I never knew the names of the men who died. They were just numbers in a ledger." "Numbers?" Sarah's composure finally cracked. "My husband was a number?" "No. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I learned their names later. Learned what my decisions cost. That's why I was writing to Denver, to set up trust funds for the families." Miller snorted. Convenient story. But Marshal Henderson studied the papers with professional interest. These documents support his claim about restitution. "Too little, too late," Sarah whispered. McKinnon shouldered his satchel. Dignity intact despite everything. "I'll go with you, Marshal. These people have suffered enough." As they led him away, the children ran inside, slamming the cabin door. Sarah stood alone in the yard, wondering if justice felt this empty for everyone. The cabin felt hollow without McKinnon's presence. Emma and Tommy barely spoke to Sarah, their trust shattered by her deception. They ate supper in silence while wind rattled the windows like accusing fingers. "You lied to us," Emma finally said. "I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything." "Same thing," Tommy muttered. Sarah stared at her untouched plate. Sometimes grown-ups have to make hard choices. "Did you save him to help him, or hurt him?" Emma's question cut deep. "Yet I don't know anymore." That night, Sarah lay awake questioning her motives. Had her kindness been genuine, or calculated revenge? McKinnon's face haunted her, not the fever-struck stranger, but the man who'd risked his life for their sheep, who'd taught her children with infinite patience, 20 miles away. McKinnon sat by a campfire under stars that seemed cold and distant. He'd convinced Marshal Henderson to let him make restitution before facing trial. But the look in Sarah's eyes when she learned the truth replayed endlessly. His dead wife's voice seemed to whisper through the wind. "Break the pattern, James. Stop running." He'd spent 43 years choosing profit over people, building walls instead of bridges. Sarah Mills had shown him another way to live, and he'd thrown it away through old cowardice. The next morning brought devastating news. Pete Miller arrived at the cabin with legal papers, his smile predatory. "Sarah, I'm filing claim on this property. Harboring a criminal voids your deed. That's not legal. My lawyer says different. Course, if you married me, we could settle this quietly." Sarah read the documents with growing horror. Miller had been planning this for months, waiting for the right opportunity. McKinnon's presence had given him the perfect excuse. "I need time to think." "You've got 3 days." After Miller left, Sarah sat on her porch watching storm clouds gather. She'd protected her family by exposing McKinnon, only to lose everything anyway. The children deserved better than her mistakes. But something McKinnon had said echoed in her memory. Home should be where people miss you when you're gone. Despite everything, she missed him terribly. McKinnon rode back as Miller's men surrounded the cabin, their intentions clear despite the legal papers. Sarah stood on her porch, holding her husband's rifle. Emma and Tommy flanked behind her like young soldiers. "You came back," Sarah said, not sure if she felt relief or fear. "I won't run anymore." Miller emerged from his group, confident in his numerical advantage. "McKinnon, you're supposed to be in custody. Released pending investigation. Seems my lawyers found irregularities in certain land claims." McKinnon's voice carried the authority of a man accustomed to boardroom battles. "Fraud is a serious charge, Miller. You can't prove nothing. Actually, I can." McKinnon pulled documents from his satchel. "Deed forgeries, bribed officials, intimidated widows. My investigators are thorough." The crowd of neighbors who'd gathered to watch the confrontation began murmuring. Sarah recognized faces from town, people who'd known her husband, who'd suffered under Miller's schemes. "Mrs. Mills," McKinnon addressed Sarah formally, "I publicly accept responsibility for the unsafe conditions that killed your husband. I can't bring him back, but I can ensure his children have the future he wanted for them." "Pretty words won't save you," Miller snarled, signaling his men. The fight erupted quickly. McKinnon had expected violence, positioning himself to protect the family, while Sarah's rifle commanded the high ground. But the real battle came from an unexpected source. "Pete Miller, you're under arrest." Marshal Henderson appeared with federal deputies, having followed McKinnon's trail. "Turns out Mr. McKinnon's been cooperating with a territorial investigation." Miller's men scattered as the law took control. Sarah lowered her rifle, stunned by the rapid reversal. "How?" she asked McKinnon. "Justice works better with evidence than revenge. Your husband's accident wasn't the only one Miller covered up." Emma and Tommy crept closer, still uncertain but drawn by hope. McKinnon knelt to their level. "I failed your father, but I won't fail you. That's a promise." Sarah studied his face, searching for the lie. Instead, she found a man who'd finally learned the difference between running away and standing still. 3 months later, spring had transformed the homestead into something resembling prosperity. McKinnon worked shirtless in the garden, planting vegetables where his blood had first stained the snow. His soft businessman's hands had developed honest calluses. Sarah watched from the kitchen window while Emma helped with accounts and Tommy practiced reading. The children called McKinnon Uncle James now, not replacement for their father, but something uniquely their own. "Ma, he's staying, isn't he?" Tommy asked. "Long as he wants." McKinnon had transferred his cattle ranch to a trust for the children while remaining as foreman. His mansion in Denver sat empty while he built a simple addition to their cabin. The legal arrangement satisfied propriety while acknowledging deeper truths. "Uncle James," Emma called. "Supper's ready." They gathered around the rebuilt hearth as shadows lengthened. McKinnon had installed proper windows and reinforced the walls, but the heart of the cabin remained unchanged, a place where family gathered against the darkness. "Tell us about Pa's mine again," Tommy requested. McKinnon's expression grew solemn. "Your father was a good man who deserved better. He worked hard to build something for his family, and I honored that poorly, but his dream lives on in you." Sarah felt peace settling in her chest like warm honey. They'd all been damaged people finding ways to heal together. Not the family she'd planned, but the one they'd built from honesty and choice. Outside, the last snow melted from the mountains, revealing green grass and wildflowers. The wolves had moved on to other territories, and Pete Miller faced trial in territorial court. As night fell, McKinnon added wood to the fire, its warmth pushing back the darkness. Sarah took her usual chair while the children sprawled on the rug with their books. This had become their ritual, 4 people who'd found each other through pain and forgiven their way to something better. The cabin, that had once been mere shelter now anchored a home built on truth instead of need, redemption instead of revenge.